Welcome to part 5 of Is the Bible Real? In the previous episodes of this series, we explored the archaeological record, historical confirmation, and the abundance of ancient manuscripts that support the Bible's credibility. We saw that the Bible describes real people, real places, and real events, and that its manuscripts survive in numbers unmatched by any other ancient text. But one question still remains. Even if the Bible was written in the ancient world, how faithfully was it preserved over time? In this episode, we'll examine multiple lines of evidence that speak directly to that question, from ancient scrolls and meticulous scribal traditions to early translations and the writings of the earliest Christian communities. We'll see why scholars across disciplines have concluded that the text of the Bible was not reshaped, revised, or reinvented, but transmitted with extraordinary care across centuries. Let's begin. The scrolls date from 250 BC to AD 70, making them over 1,000 years older than the previously known Hebrew manuscripts. Among them were, when scholars compared these ancient scrolls to the medieval Masoretic text used in most modern Bibles, the results were astonishing. The text had been preserved with remarkable accuracy. Word for word, line by line, the Isaiah scroll, written around 125 BC, matched the medieval copy from AD 1008 with only minor differences, none of which affected the meaning or message. This discovery demonstrated the Old Testament had been copied with meticulous care. The Masoretic tradition faithfully preserved the text across a millennium. The biblical manuscripts were far more stable than many scholars had assumed. It showed that the Bible we hold today accurately reflects the text that existed long before the time of Jesus. The Dead Sea Scrolls are more than an archaeological discovery. They are a window into a world that confirms the extraordinary preservation of Scripture. They showed that the Old Testament did not drift slowly over time. It was copied faithfully, consistently, and with reverence. And across more than 1,000 years, the message remained the same. There is another layer of manuscript evidence that is often overlooked, and yet it may be the most impressive of all. From the very beginning of the Christian movement, leaders in the early church wrote letters, sermons, commentaries, and defenses of the faith. These early Christian writers are known as the Church Fathers or the patristic authors. They lived from the first century through the early centuries of the church, some personally taught by the apostles or their direct students. These writers quoted the New Testament constantly in their teaching, in their debates, in their letters, and in their writings to churches under persecution. Their works include quotations from the Gospels, Acts, Paul's letters, Hebrews, James, Peter, John, Revelation. In fact, their quotations are so extensive that textual scholars estimate, now let this settle in. Even if we had no Greek manuscripts, even if every ancient copy disappeared, we would still have the New Testament preserved throughout hundreds of early Christian writings. When the quotations from all early Christian fathers are combined, the number exceeds far more than enough to confirm the text. This means the New Testament was not only copied in manuscripts, it was embedded in the living, teaching, writing, and preaching of the earliest Christian communities. This evidence is independent of manuscripts, independent of archaeology, independent of translation traditions. It is an entirely separate witness, one that confirms the same text in a different way. The early church did not treat Scripture casually. They quoted it, they preserved it, they taught it, and through their writings they embedded the New Testament so deeply in history that its message could never be erased. The New Testament was originally written in Greek, but from the very beginning, Christianity was a multilingual movement. As the message spread across the ancient world, believers began translating the Scriptures into other languages, long before the modern era of printing, scholarship, or standardized texts. These early translations are known as the versions, and they form another powerful line of evidence confirming the accuracy and preservation of the Bible. Why does this matter? Because these translations were made across continents, cultures, languages, and the centuries. Yet they reflect the same New Testament we have today. This means the text was already stable before these translations were made and remained stable afterward. Early translations act like multiple checkpoints spread across the ancient world. They show that the Bible was not altered by any one group or empire. Instead, it was recognized, translated, and preserved consistently across civilizations. Long before the printing press, long before modern scholarship, the Jewish people developed one of the most meticulous copying traditions in human history. For them, copying scripture was not simply a task, it was an act of worship, a sacred responsibility. They could not write from memory. Every letter had to be copied directly from another manuscript. Each sheet had a fixed number of columns. Columns had to align perfectly. The width of each letter was regulated. The ink had to be consistent. Every letter, word, and paragraph had to be exact. If they made even a small mistake in the name of God, they destroyed the entire sheet. They counted every letter, word, and verse. They checked the middle letter of each book and the middle word of each section. If the count was off, even by one, the manuscript was discarded. Vowel marks, cantillation notes, margin notes, safeguards against errors, and when compared to the Dead Sea Scrolls, manuscripts more than 1,000 years older, the accuracy is extraordinary. A culture that revered scripture. A copying tradition obsessed with accuracy. Safeguards unmatched anywhere in antiquity. The Old Testament was not modified or reinvented. It was transmitted with exceptional care, and across more than 1,000 years, the message remained intact. To understand how extraordinary the Bible's manuscript evidence is, it helps to compare it with other ancient works. Texts historians accept as reliable despite tiny manuscript collections. Plato wrote in the 4th century BC. The earliest copy we have is 1,200 years later. The total number of early manuscripts is 7. Aristotle lived in the 4th century BC, and the earliest copies of his writings we have are 1,400 years later. The total number of early manuscripts is 5. For Caesar's Gallic Wars, written around 50 BC, the earliest copy we have is 1,000 years later. The total number of early manuscripts is 10. Tacitus's Annals were written around AD 100, with the earliest copy in existence being 900 years later, with only 3 early manuscripts. These are foundational texts, yet very few manuscripts survive. In contrast, the difference is staggering. The New Testament has more manuscripts, earlier manuscripts, wider geographic spread, greater linguistic diversity than any ancient work. The Old Testament, verified by the Dead Sea Scrolls, preserved by meticulous scribes, supported by independent textual traditions. When placed side by side, one fact becomes undeniable. Not slightly better, not moderately better, better by such a massive margin that nothing else in history even comes close. If historians accept Plato, Aristotle, Caesar, and Tacitus as reliable on the basis of a handful of late copies, then by the same academic standards, the Bible is not only reliable, it is the gold standard for ancient textual preservation. When we step back and examine the manuscript evidence as a whole, a clear picture emerges. Across the ancient world, across languages, cultures, and continents, across more than 2,000 years, the text of the Bible has been preserved with a level of accuracy unparalleled in human history. We see this in the number of manuscripts, far more than any ancient text. We see it in the earliness of those manuscripts, some within decades of the originals. We see it in the agreement between manuscripts, with a textual accuracy above 99%. We see it in the Dead Sea Scrolls, confirming consistency across a 1,000-year gap. We see it in the early translations, showing stability across cultures. We see it in the writings of the early church fathers, embedding scripture across generations. We see it in the Jewish scribal tradition, a reverence-driven system unlike any other. This evidence comes from archaeology, paleography, history, linguistics, inscriptions, manuscripts, translations, and living community traditions. Each line of evidence is strong. Together, they form a foundation that is impossible to dismiss. The conclusion is simple: not changed by centuries of copying, not revised by councils, not reshaped by empires, not distorted by translations. In this episode, we examined what happens when all the evidence for preservation is taken together. We saw that the text of the Bible was not preserved by chance. It was guarded through multiple independent lines of transmission: ancient scrolls, meticulous scribal traditions, early translations spread across cultures, and the writings of the earliest Christian communities. We saw that the Old Testament was copied with extraordinary care, confirmed across a 1,000-year gap by the Dead Sea Scrolls. We saw that the New Testament was embedded so deeply into early Christian teaching and writing that its text could never be erased. And when the Bible is placed alongside other ancient works, texts historians readily accept as reliable, its manuscript evidence stands alone, not slightly better, not moderately stronger, but preserved by a margin unmatched anywhere in the ancient world. Taken together, archaeology, manuscripts, translations, and history point to a simple conclusion. The Bible was not changed by centuries of copying. It was not reshaped by councils or empires. It was transmitted with exceptional care, and its message remained intact. In the next episode, we'll step back and consider what all of this evidence means when viewed as a whole. Thank you for watching, and as always, this is Bright Path Studio, positive wisdom for life's journey.